Angle in the first. Watch out.
Look at this.
Upton pops it up. Left side, Elvis Anderson backpedaling. He is under it. He puts it away. The Texas Rangers have won a postseason series.
The Texas Rangers are American League champions. One to swing. It's tied! Garcia sends one to the this is score. He's at the wall, and the legend grows! It's the Texas Rangers win the World Series!
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live, coming at you on Sunday, March 8th. Rangers taking on the Angels and making it a little bit interesting. It's currently 8-7 LA in the bottom of the 8th inning. We're going to bring you the rest of this one. Listen along with the radio guys. Follow along on the MLB.com app. We'll figure it out. We'll bring you the best play-by-play we can. Looks like Figueroa, is going to ground out here and end the bottom of the 8th inning. Angels will bat in the top of the 9th. We'll see who the Rangers bring on to pitch here. It was Brazier. He pitched a scoreless top of the 8th inning. Good to see him getting back on track. We got quite a few topic points to go through with you today. We have the Rangers making a waiver claim. We're going to talk about the new addition to the 40-man roster, Jordan Montgomery, sent to the 60-day IL as a result to make room. And, of course, we'll go through some of the big performances from today and from the weekend. Nathan Eovaldi going 5 innings. Evan Carter hitting a grand slam, his second home run of the spring. Josh Smith going yard for the very first time in Surprise, sporting a pretty good slash line in Arizona thus far. Lot to go through, but first here at Right on Rangers, we cover everything Texas sports, but during the baseball season, huge emphasis on the Rangers, and we thank you for choosing Right on Rangers for all of your Texas Rangers content. Those of y'all that have been around, you know how it goes. You'll drop a comment, drop a question. I may miss it. Nothing personal. We don't duck anything here on the show. Obviously, we got to go through some slop, but anything of substance, we'll try and get back to. Don't be shy. Feel free to copy and paste that question, that comment again, and I will make sure to try and get to it before the show is over. Let's start with today's performances. Evan Carter, grand slam early on in this one, put the Rangers up 4-1, gave Nathan Eovaldi a nice cushion after giving up a run in the top of the first. Evan Carter on the spring, an 1159 OPS. Rangers have talked a lot about Evan Carter being an everyday player this year, and clearly a top prospect like Evan Carter, that's what you want to see. We've gone over and over the fact that Evan has been platooned in a major way at almost every level up to this point in his career. And we've discussed his development and whether or not that has played into where Evan Carter is at right now. Evan not really been given a long runway to struggle through ABs against lefties. I do think that they are going to try it out this year. I don't know if they'll do every single lefty, but I do feel like they are going to try him against some of your standard, more typical guys. I think maybe you have a Scooble up on the mound. You know, you're facing Ranger Suarez. Maybe you got one of the best lefties in the game throwing. You think about giving him a little maintenance day. But some of these guys throughout the course of the year that you face, left-handed, yes, but elite, no. And I think Evan Carter needs to prove that he can handle that. Hopefully take some pages out of Brandon Nimmo's book. You've seen Evan Carter hitting the left-handed BP in Surprise, something that Brandon Nimmo said was huge, incredibly instrumental in him becoming a quality hitter against lefties, being a left-handed hitter himself. And so you've seen Evan Carter take BP off lefties in Surprise. Great to see. And you can only hope that Brandon Nimmo is able to rub off in that way on Evan Carter. Big game for him today. Added a double as well. We're talking 6 total bases for full count Carter today. Good stuff. And then beyond that, you talk about Josh Smith. Josh Smith this spring, I made the point maybe about a week ago. I'm not sure there's anybody that has more pressure this year on them than Josh Smith. I think there is an argument he's facing among the most pressure. Maybe Jock Peterson, you could throw in that mix. I think, though, for Josh Smith personally, I'm not sure he's had a year where there's been more pressure. You're going to be given the starting job unless you have a pretty terrible spring, which Josh Smith is not having by any means. You also have to consider he's replacing Marcus Semien, a Gold Glover, an MVP candidate at different points in his career. Obviously, that wasn't the case the last 2 years. But you are filling some pretty good size shoes. And I think Josh Smith, so far so good and surprised. Got to see how it goes once the regular season begins. Not sure how much leash Josh Smith is going to be given at second base. Not sure if Josh Smith is even going to be an everyday player out the gate. I mean, you look at Sam Haggerty's numbers, 400, 1,100 OPS. We may have a platoon. But Josh Smith doing what he needs to do to stay on the field. And we know that Josh Smith brings this in the first half. The big question mark is going to be the second half for Josh. And it's a big reason why I've been a fan personally of Josh Smith being in a platoon role out the gate. Let Sam Haggerty have some reps at second base against lefties. We know Josh Smith, OPS was in the 500s against lefties last year. Sam Haggerty's been crushing lefties. Feels like a no-brainer to me. We'll see what Skip decides to do, whether they make Josh Smith an everyday guy or whether they decide to do some platooning. I would be in favor of the latter. We will see what happens back on the first weekend of the MLB 2026 regular season. But Josh Smith, home run today. He goes 2 for 2. And he did not miss, man. Dude got his money's worth. That was a bomb of a home run. I believe it was 415 feet. I mean, that ball was a no-doubter. 415 feet, 103.3 off the bat. First bomb of the spring. Congrats to Josh Smith. All right, we keep rolling. Let me get to you guys and your comments, questions along the way. We have other things that we're going to go through here on the show, obviously, but maybe we'll end up getting to it through you guys. That's sometimes how it goes. I got my list of topics. You guys beat me to it. By the way, Otanez on right now. Not looking too good early on. Otanez has given up a single. Pretty hard hit. 107 off the bat. He also, beyond that, has, looks like, allowed another batter to reach. So runners on first and second here. Wild pitch. He got a little bit of tough luck. Wild pitch on a strikeout. Got a runner to first, but he looks like giving up another wild pitch. So now it is second and third. We'll have the radio guys softly on in the background here. Radio only today. I hate days like this, man. I just want to watch more and more baseball. The more I consume, the more that I want to consume more. It's disappointing when these games aren't on, but we'll deal with the radio guys for now. They're all right, I guess. At least you got the app. At least you got the radio. By the way, single here makes it 9-7 Angels. So Otanez not having a very good time right now. His spring ERA is up to 13.50. Holly, what's good? Thanks for the comment. I was actually going to lead off with this second time around. Can we get rid of Alexis Diaz? Look, let me talk this through here. I don't want to take a victory lap when somebody is struggling. And so I'm not going to call it a victory lap, but this feels like a good time to say I told you so. Alexis Diaz was kind of the hot commodity when we signed him to take over the closer role. I feel like a lot of Rangers fans, a lot of pundits, a lot of media around the Rangers organization speculated that Alexis Diaz was a bit of a lottery ticket, but could be a closer. I always say this whenever the Rangers sign somebody who's had a bad year the previous year, whenever you got to go back 2 years and look at the baseball savant page, in this case from 2024, whenever you got to go back to the 2024 savant page to talk yourself into somebody, you know you're already going down a bad path. Alexis Diaz, he had to go back to 2024 to start feeling good about him. Yes, it is very possible for players to have down years. Make no mistake, it happens. But I had no clue why we were throwing Alexis Diaz as closer into the mix immediately. It made little to no sense to me. And I'd have to agree with Natalie. He's looked terrible so far. The ERA is 43.20. And while you might say, it's spring, that number feels real, if that makes sense. That number feels pretty spot on. Like, if you ask me, what's this guy's ERA? I probably would have said some double-digit random number. It's been that bad. Alexis Diaz today does not record an out. He does allow a hit, does allow 3 walks, 5 earned runs total. Alexis Diaz was terrible today. I don't think there's any other way around it. And for me, I cannot see Alexis Diaz anywhere near the 9th inning. I don't care that this is surprise. I don't care that this is spring training. And I get so tired of people saying that all the time to me. I think when you have guys like Alexis Diaz, is this guy, a lock to be some late inning high leverage dude? Absolutely not. Is he probably going to make the opening day roster? I bet he probably will. But I get so tired of people telling me to pipe down with spring training stats. If you want to, go for it. The bottom line is, when you have guys that are trying to prove themselves, you've got a guy like Jock Peterson, you've got a guy like Alexis Diaz, each trying to recover from a terrible 2025. I don't know how you don't read into spring training stats. By the way, Ohtani is getting further rocked here. Looks like the Angels are going to be putting more up on the board here. So this one's getting a little out of hand late for Texas. Angels put up 6 runs in the top of the 7th, and they are adding 2 more here. It is 10-7. Out recorded. Looks like there are now 2 outs in the inning. 1 out, in the inning. But it is 10-7 Angels. Alexis Diaz is trying to prove himself. Jock Peterson's trying to prove himself. You got a number of bounce-back candidates trying to prove themselves. For me, I don't throw spring training stats out the window for guys like that. Corey Seager, sure. Give me Corey Seager struggling a little bit at the beginning. We joked he didn't get a hit for like 5 or 6 games or something like that. We were kind of joking, just, tongue-in-cheek about it. I'm not worried about guys who are clearly going to be staples in the lineup, in the pitching rotation, in the bullpen. Alexis Diaz is a flyer. And it's a lottery ticket. This is not some staple. And so for me, I do look at the spring stats and I do say to myself, okay, this guy's competing. He's supposed to be giving you all that he can, showing you that he belongs in late inning, high leverage situations. So I think it is a very convenient and unfair cop-out to sit around and say, yeah, the Alexis Diaz numbers today don't mean anything because it's just spring. Gets so old, people saying that. For me, yeah, sure. Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Judge, Ohtani, Bryce Harper, throw out all the best names in baseball. If they're struggling a little bit in spring, you're probably not sounding the alarm. Guys that are competing for a spot, trying to make the roster, it's a little bit of a different story for me. Here we go. Blake Townsend. Yeah, Blake Townsend to me was not able to watch this morning, by the way. I mean, the game started at like 3 a.m. my time, man. 3 a.m. I was not trying to get up to watch that game. So I did not watch live. But when I woke up, definitely tuned into the replays. And yeah, Blake Townsend looked really, really solid. Look, the fastball is not awesome. When you're a lefty, you don't necessarily have to have a heater, although it's nice. But he went up against some pretty tough bats in the Japan lineup. He took care of Ohtani a couple of times, technically. On the first time he faced Ohtani, the runner at second base, bases loaded, got backpicked, and they were able to escape the bases loaded threat. Then Ohtani came back up in the next half inning and he was leading off, and he definitely put a charge into it, but he was right at the right fielder, and they were able to get out of it. And then Townsend would go on to, I think, allow a runner to reach base. I think he gave up a hit or a walk, and then retired the rest of the side. So Townsend, 2 1/3 innings pitched in the World Baseball Classic and has not given up a run yet. We'll knock on wood for him. Blake Townsend, by the way, if you're not familiar, the Rangers signed him in the offseason. He started in the Mariners organization, and he actually debuted with the Mariners. Doesn't have very many MLB innings under his belt. I believe single digits, if I'm not mistaken. But Mariners let him go. The Pirates picked him up, I believe, last year or the year before, and he's bounced around one more time. Texas now signs him, and he has been assigned to Double-A Frisco. And so you will see him with the Rough Riders a little bit, but you never know. A big-time performance in the WBC could get him places. You might see him bump up to Round Rock. We'll see how the rest of his time over in Japan goes. I believe that they need to win tomorrow. Whenever Australia plays next, I believe they need to win, and then they advance on to the next stages. Japan is definitely on to the next stage, but I believe Australia needs a dub their next time out, and then they will be on to the next round with Samurai Japan. We keep on rolling. Appreciate all you guys. TikTok, I know you guys have been patient. What do you got? I'll go through, see if I missed anything worth talking about. Appreciate you. We're just talking about the Rangers today, spring training. We'll keep going through my topics if there's nothing much going on. Looks pretty good. A lot of pressure on Young. Michael, I don't know if you're still hanging out. I would agree. Young, definitely. I think there is a lot of pressure on him right now. Now, he's not playing because of the adductor strain, which apparently is getting better. But I think Young has got to be up there too. I do throw Josh Smith in that mix just because he's replacing Simeon and because he is getting his first chance to really be a full-time starter. Back-to-back years, Josh Smith has kind of come in as Swiss Army knife bench guy, and he's been thrust into a starting role when there's an injury. Now, you're pretty much the dude, and you've got to show what you got, and you have to do something to shut up, to set down the naysayers who have said that he can only last one half before the second half fallout. And that has been what's happened with Josh Smith the past 2 seasons. So he's got a lot to prove. He has a lot to prove at this point. Hey, what's up, my friend? Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. Good comment here. The pickup of Dayron Blanco is interesting. He's optionable, big-time speed, decent contact, should be a good fourth outfielder in a pinch. I definitely am very, very curious about this guy, and I'm looking forward to watching him play a little bit. Hopefully he can get into spring training, get some ABs and surprise. Speed Demon, we know he has got, I think, 50-something stolen bases in 170 games. So this is a guy that's swiping a bag at least every 3 games, if you just do the math there. Definitely something the Rangers have wanted to emphasize more this year. I'm very curious what this does for Andrew McCutchen. I think Andrew McCutchen is definitely still on the fringe with this signing, though. You feel a little bit less like he's going to make the roster, just a little bit. I still think there's a place for him, but I felt like the very natural move with McCutchen was you send Monty to the IL, which they did today, and you give Andrew McCutchen the 40-man spot that Monty is going to relinquish going to the IL. Instead, they signed Blanco, and here we are. Now, I still believe that there's probably going to be somebody on the chopping block. I think there's going to be someone on the chopping block still. I do see them making some movements here before March, whatever it is, 27th or 28th. I think that there might be someone else getting DFA'd. I don't think there's any other 60-day IL moves that can be made. But I do anticipate, unless somebody starts lighting it on fire, there are a few guys that have not had great springs currently on the 40-man. Maybe we still see a DFA and an Andrew McCutchen ad. Now, granted, Andrew McCutchen hasn't even played a spring game yet. Hopefully, he'll be able to make his debut sometime early on this week. That would be the plan. But I did think to myself, man, this is going to get interesting. You give up the spot and you give it to Blanco. you definitely got to DFA someone else now on the 40-man if you want to make room for Andrew McCutchen. Keep on going. Don't think he impacts Kutch. Have a hard time believing they bring Kutch in without certainty of a pathway. This is me. I felt this way really the entire time. I know a lot of people were kind of clapping back at me when I was making a big deal about the McCutchen signing. Just say it. He hasn't even made the team yet, bro. Come on. He hasn't even made the team yet. I don't know. I tend to agree. I think, why bring in McCutchen? Here's the comment again. Why bring in McCutchen at all if you felt great about the right-handed bench options, right? Like, if you feel great about the right-handed bench options, why are you bringing in Andrew McCutchen? That makes no sense to me. I think you have got to have some kind of plan if you're bringing in a guy like that. Just throwing him into the mix, I don't know. Kutch to me is just so well respected in the game as well. So well respected, right? I just find it hard to believe they just said to him, yeah, man, it is not probably real likely you're going to make the team, but, if you want to get some spring training ABs, go for it, brother. I really doubt that was the case. We keep on going. What about a bench of McCutchen, Blanco, Haggerty, and a catcher? Yeah, I think that's going to end up being a possibility. I think it's probably going to be McCutchen, Haggerty, and let's go Danny Jansen for sure. That fourth spot is going to be really interesting. You have to see what happens with Duran. You have to see what happens with Bosque. And then, of course, Cody Freeman. They really haven't told us a lot about what's going to be happening with Cody Freeman. Is he going to just simply stay at the big league level? Are they going to send him down to AAA for a little while? Clearly, he's got some options. That, to me, is going to be interesting. It is going to be very interesting what they decide to do with Freeman. And so those pieces, I think, do have to fall into place. But I do think you've got at least 3 of the 4 names. If you're making me bet on it right now tonight, yes, I think McCutchen, Haggerty, catcher spot. And then I think at this point, you have to strongly consider the fact that maybe some of those guys get DFA'd. Blanco, I think, would be nice to have off the bench. If you got that speed, that changes things. You can use a guy like Blanco relentlessly at the end of games. I think that is a big-time move for Texas to get a guy like that. You didn't really have someone like that off the bench last year. You had a few guys with a little bit of speed, but Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, as of right now, are the fastest guys on the team. Marcus Semien was up there too, but you really didn't have a speed demon off the bench. I've got to think that Blanco is going to get strong consideration unless he just really soils the bed in surprise. We'll keep on going. McCutchen, 39, and his only decline. We know CY loves his leadership. Yeah, look, Kutch, the numbers are going down. He is a 290-ish hitter lifetime against lefties. That's encouraging. 743 OPS against lefties last year. That's almost 100 points higher. Crazy enough. 743 OPS is almost 100 points higher than what the Rangers as a team hit against lefties last year. Sad but true. So Kutch is definitely an upgrade. Let's not make any mistake about it, and I don't think you are. But I will say, having a guy that you can rely on in the DH spot to take over for Jock Peterson when there's a lefty on the bump, that's big. The Rangers, I think, had to play musical chairs with the DH spot too much. Look, I like the idea of Peterson, McCutchen. Platoon DH isn't a sexy thing to say out loud, but I will say I think it's a better plan than going Jock Peterson and then throwing in whoever into the fire for the lefties. I mean, I think having this set role is definitely going to be helpful. We keep on going. Haggerty on the bench. Don't want him to be on the bench. Want him to play every day. I definitely am not going to be too opposed to this. I think Haggerty could move around and probably play 5 out of 6. Maybe, depending on the week, you play 6 games. I could see Haggerty maybe 1 or 2 days off max, but plugging in other places beyond that. So this isn't a hot take. I think Haggerty could find his way into the lineup nearly every day if he continues to swing a hot bat, play good defense, and just be that spark plug, man. That's what he was last year. Keep going here. Have to add Gavin Collier to the bullpen. He's pitched his way into the conversation, assuming he doesn't get knocked around the last few weeks. Well, I think Baumler is definitely going to make it in the mix. Baumler, I think, is absolutely going to be in the mix. That definitely will make things interesting. You've got a few other names that I think you got to throw out there, but it's going to be interesting who they decide to keep up. I do think that Collier, he threw 99.3, topped out at 99.3 yesterday. I was a believer. The off speed looks good. And he had a pretty good, I think, 2 scoreless innings, I believe it was. For me, I am definitely a fan of Gavin Collier getting an opportunity. I could see him being a AAA guy initially. Maybe he gets the call up when you have an injury, whatever the case may be. But I've been very impressed with Collier. Very, very impressed. Cam Cauley, to me, look, you guys, those of you that follow me, especially on X, you know this is the Cam Cauley fan club right here. It's right on Rangers, but it's the Cam Cauley fan club, man. I love Cam Cauley. I love what he brings to the table. He is a guy that can play multiple positions around the field. Played right field today. I think he did have an error today out in right field, but I did a little reading. Dude has not played right field very much at all in his career. It wasn't really clear as I did the research. I think he has played some center field. Look, it happens to the best of them, but they are trying to play Cam Cauley just about everywhere, man. They want this guy to be versatile. I think they hope that he's going to be the player they wish Zeke Duran could become. Zeke has been given 3 or 4 seasons now to show what he's got. It hasn't worked out. And so for me, I would love to see Cam Cauley on the opening day roster, but I just feel like, the math is not mathing, as they say, as the young kids say. Math is not mathing here. You just have too many now at the end. The Blanco ad, the McCutchen ad. Had those 2 guys not gotten added, I'd get my hopes up a little bit more that Cam Cauley would be on the opening day roster. But I feel like with Blanco and with McCutchen being added now, I just don't see it happening. I do think Cam makes his major league debut at some point this year. And look, by no means are you going to see me crying in my beer if Cam Cauley is in, Philadelphia? We in Philly the first week, or are we in Arlington? I get this confused. But if he's in the lineup, or at least if he's on the lineup card, I should say, against the Phillies that first weekend, I'm not going to be mad about it at all. At all. True backup shortstop on the bench would be nice. That is a good point. Haggerty can play second. We know he can play some outfield. Duran, you're right. He might get the nod because he can play short. He may potentially get that nod. I think that Cauley obviously can play a little short as well, but again, I just see them beginning him in AAA. He was 0 for 2 today, strikeout and a ground out, although we'll check the EV. Weak ground out, so look, it's 2 ABs. Don't want to overreact. Cam is still hitting a very, very healthy number at this point. 367 average with a 1039 OPS. Is that good? Dude's doing just fine. Finally didn't get a hit. Felt like every single time, every single day he gets in the lineup, he's getting on base. Okay, we're in Philly. Thank you, Holly. I appreciate that. Zeke does have the minor league option remaining. However, do we really think Zeke needs to be taking up playing time in AAA? That's what, for me, I go back and forth about in my mind. Do you really want to send Ezekiel Duran down to AAA? He takes ABs away from other guys. Maybe you could make the argument, there's no one that's going to be right around the corner potentially helping you in Arlington anyways on the AAA team. So if Zeke goes down and plays shortstop or third base, whatever. But for me, I do think that a possible plan could be you let him go down to AAA, you let him rake, and you trade him. In fact, that's what I would have loved to see the Rangers do last year. If you remember, Zeke Duran hit like 5 bombs in 5 games, or it might have been 6 bombs in 5 games right before the trade deadline. And I was like, trade, trade, trade. And they decided to bring him up and keep him on the bench. I did not understand that move at all. When Zeke Duran hit those 5 or 6 homers in 5 or 6 games, again, whatever it was, it felt like the stock is not going to get any higher. Somebody is going to take a flyer on a dude that has shown a little bit of a power surge right before the deadline, throw him in with some prospects and try and get somebody big. I would have loved to have traded Zeke Duran instead of the 3 pitching prospects in the Merrill Kelly trade. I'm sure the Diamondbacks wanted pitching prospects, but still, I don't understand what they've done and what the plan has been at the deadlines with Zeke Duran. I feel like there's been so many opportunities where they could have maximized his value. You know, back in 2023, he was hitting over 300 in May. And I thought you had an opportunity then. I think it was fairly obvious Zeke Duran was not going to be an everyday starter for you back in 2023. And instead, you hung on to him as like this ultimate bench bat, and it just hasn't worked out. That to me is definitely something that you have to consider with Zeke. Now, I do agree, shortstop, probably the best option. I don't know, though. You've got some different things that you can do. You can move Josh Smith to shortstop if needed. You can move a Cody Freeman to second base. You can move a Sam Haggerty to second base. So my only pushback on this would be, I think the club feels okay about Josh Smith playing shortstop. Maybe not great, but okay. So I do think there's a world where you do DFA or you option Zeke Duran. You slide Josh Smith over to shortstop when Corey needs a breather. And now you do have a lot of options open at second base. So that would be my only pushback on that, brother. But it is a fair point. No doubt it's a fair point. All right, TikTok. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Brad, thanks, man. Appreciate you. The hat collection is getting bigger and bigger. This happens to me every spring training. Every spring training, man. Oh, my gosh. Appreciate all you guys. I'm scrolling back, just making sure that I didn't miss out on anything. Thank you. Rangers, by the way, final score 10-7. They dropped this game to the Angels. Pitching, man. Pitching. Not good today. Not good today. I am going to be watching Mexico and Italy a little bit later on. They're playing it right now at 4, or they play at 5? I know I'm a couple hours behind most of y'all, but they play in an hour, don't they? I thought it was a 7 p.m. start. That'll be good. I definitely am looking forward to seeing Team Mexico. Maybe Robert Garcia gets in the mix. Maybe Alejandro Osuna. Osuna has not played yet. Robert Garcia pitched on Friday, had a good inning of work. I love Robert Garcia, by the way, just like Team Mexico used him. Like 7th, 8th inning. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I absolutely would like to see the Rangers keep him in that 7th, 8th inning role. I think it is more than a good spot for him. Maybe matching up a little bit against tough lefties. We'll see what happens. Excuse me. Appreciate all you guys. Keep dropping comments as we go along. We will try and get to as many of them as we can. We are about halfway through the show. We started about 30 minutes ago, about 5:30 y'all's time down in Texas. We're going to go till about 6:30 tonight. Should be good. We keep on going. 7 p.m. There you go. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to be watching that one. I might put some video out. By the way, shameless plug, follow me over on X. I drop a lot of videos. I drop a lot of content on X during games. Want to make sure you have the opportunity to keep up with us as much as you can. We definitely do the live shows after games during the spring training season. By the way, we do Thursdays and Sundays. Thursdays and Sundays during the regular season. We're basically live after every game, giving you the analysis, giving you the breakdown. We usually even go live in the 8th or 9th innings, just like we did today, to watch them with you guys. Will the Rangers hopefully to victory? Last year it was hit or miss when we were on the live shows, but man, did we get to see some special moments, some fun walk-offs. There were some good ones in there, man. We keep going, though. Let me see. Nimmo, Langford, Seager, Berger, slaps. I got to agree. Langford, Seager, Berger. I've commented on this multiple times over the past week. I think Skip may have cooked with this order that he's throwing out. I think obviously Nimmo is going to be the leadoff guy. Nimmo, Langford, Seager, Berger, I think is the play right now. Berger is having an outstanding spring training thus far. I mean, he mashed another home run yesterday. Berger has been very, very good this spring in Surprise, and good for him because there's a lot of scrutiny around Jake Berger too. A lot of fans hoping that Jake Berger turns back into the 30 home run guy that he was when he was with the Marlins and when he was with the White Sox. And so far this spring, 3 homers, an 1150 OPS. I mean, this is what we want to see. This is what we want to see. People forget about Jake Berger. This is a first-round pick. I mean, this guy is first-round pedigree. The White Sox drafted him 11th overall in 2017. This is a first-round pedigree guy. And so for me, this unlocks so much. If you have Jake Berger hitting cleanup, mashing, 30 homers, exit velocity off the charts, if you can get that in the 4 spot, that's huge. That unlocks so much when you have a steady right-handed power bat. That was the big thing. You lost to Adolis Garcia, and he hasn't been awesome the last 2 years anyways. But like it or not, you did have a bit of a void. You had no right-handed power bat that teams will potentially fear. And look, Jake Berger, he's got to do it in the regular season for teams to really respect it. But if you have Jake Berger dangerously sitting behind Corey Seager, that plays. You need somebody that is going to be able to protect Siegs. That's my biggest fear with Corey Seager hitting number 3. Who are you going to throw behind him that's actually going to encourage teams to still pitch to Corey rather than putting him on? And look, if they do decide, hey, we'd still rather face Jake Berger than Corey Seager, at least have a guy in that spot that's going to punish them for making that decision. Berger lowering his hands was the ticket. Last year, hand positioning was way too high. Couldn't catch up to the high heater. Not swinging at sliders in the next county helps too. I feel like this is like maybe not the hands thing, but the swinging at sliders in the next county. Hello, Josh Young last year. Hello, Adolis Garcia. A little bit, hello, Marcus Semien, although he actually had probably one of the better eyes on the team. Like, there were so many guys last year swinging at pitches in the next county. But that is fascinating to me. I do think with Berger, you also had the injury thing too, right? He was dealing with several different ailments at different points throughout the year. So I have heard a little bit about tweaking of the swing, but more it feels like has been made of the injury stuff. I think it's probably a good combo of the two. It looks good so far. And look, I know people are always going to push back on spring stats. I feel like for guys like Berger, for guys like Jock Peterson, for guys like Josh Smith, for guys that are trying to prove themselves after a bit of a bad ending to the year before or a down year in general, I feel like the spring stats do matter a little bit more. Agree to disagree if you're not with me on this, but look, I'm going to look at Jake Berger's stats a little differently than Corey Seager's. Jake Berger, down year last year, needing to prove himself a little bit. I love peeling back a couple of layers, and especially when it comes to these guys that are fighting for spots, I think there is more to it than, it's just spring. It's a lot of people that like to write off some of these numbers. I think you have to take them with a grain of salt, but you also have to look at the context too. Keep going. Berger went back, watched a lot of his old highlights during the offseason, found a lot of things that went wrong. I'm just glad he figured it out, man. Same for me, my guy. Look, I 100% love getting into the mechanics of swings. You can over tinker. If you played the game, you know this. You can over tinker, but these are the things that I love talking about, man. Absolutely. We keep on going. What do I got on TikTok? Making sure I don't forget about y'all. Young gonna have a year as long as Phil Maton does not injure him. Josh Young's going to have a good year as long as Maton doesn't get a hold of him. There you go. Gee, we'll knock on wood again for Josh Young. Dude could seriously benefit from having a full season of health, man. Feels like he just hasn't quite gotten it yet. Burger MVP season loading, that would be nice. That would be real nice. Remember in 23 when everyone was hitting good in the spring? Hey, you make a good point. 2023 was so much fun. I remember watching games with my buddies, watching games with my dad, and it was just like, even if they went down 4-0, you weren't worried about it. I can remember watching a game with my dad in 23. It was like after church on a Sunday, kind of like today. And it was like they went down 5-0. I can't remember which game it was, who they were playing, but they went down like 5-0. And then like 2 innings later, it was 5-5. And then in another inning, and the Rangers were leading. This is 2023. That team was just fun, man. They were just fun to watch. And I hope the good vibes in spring training carries over into 2026. I really do. That to me is definitely something that you have to consider. You have good springs. It worked in 23. Could it work this year? Who knows? But it's glass half full right now. Hope springs eternal and surprise, man. This is fun. Yeah, I definitely, for me, love the analytical part of the game. How can you ignore it, right? But man, I don't know how some of these guys keep all these numbers and different things out of their heads. I really don't know, with all of the analytics, with all the devices, with the immediate feedback that some of these guys get even in game. It is enough to go a little bit crazy. You've really got to figure out what works for you. Cody Freeman, when we had him on the show a couple of months ago, we were talking about that. It's an interesting phenomenon, I'll call it, in baseball right now, with so much at your fingertips. How much are you going to buy into? How much are you going to change? Fascinating stuff, man. 23, you could never count them out. 24, score one and you're done. 25 felt like the same thing, man. If it was 3-0, if the other team got to like 4 runs, you did not feel like it was going to be the Rangers' night. Hey, man, it happens to the best of us. I always joke with people. I played as long as I could. I definitely did not play at any crazy level, but you know what? I love the game, and I tried to be around it as much as I possibly could. And this is my way that I get to still continue that. But I made some lifelong friends through baseball. It was awesome. Has to come to an end someday, unfortunately, but this is the next best thing, brother. Keep on going. Appreciate all you guys. All right. We're doing pretty well, actually, keeping up with all the TikTok comments. Excellent. Thank you so much for everybody that's hanging out. Let me close the show out with a couple of different points. We talked a little bit of Andrew McCutchen. We definitely went through and we discussed some of the big performances from today. Talking about Nathan Eovaldi a little bit. Evo, 4.66 ERA this spring. We know that he was working around trying to tweak the splitter a little bit. He goes 5 innings today, though. I did not think he was going to go 5. I thought maybe 4 and he'd be done, but Evo throws 68 pitches, 49 strikes. So, I mean, the guy was in a zone in that regard. 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Evo continuing to heat up a little bit here. Rangers also had Curvelo pitch today. Diaz, we've talked about Diaz. It's not looking good for him. Alexis Diaz, potential closer candidate. I don't know that that's going to be happening. And then a few other guys. Acker actually got in at the end of the game today. We talked about Otanez. Acker had 2 outs, no hits, no runs, no strikeouts, no walks. And then as we go through some of the other things from the weekend, a lot of good stuff yesterday, man. I was the thumbs were burning trying to post as quickly as I could all the good stuff that was happening with the Rangers. But you had Jake Berger, like we talked about earlier, hitting the home run. That was huge. You also had a number of other guys looking sharp. I know that we talked about Wyatt Langford yesterday too. A lot of good stuff. We have Cam Cauley with the 2 hits from yesterday. That was big. Chris Martin, by the way, this is another thing I wanted to go through. Chris Martin getting his first spring action yesterday. Scoreless frame. Good to see Chris Martin back on the bump. Did give up a double in his very first batter, but was able to work through it. He went ground out and then I believe got a fly out, got another ground out, did not strike out anyone. Velo, I think, was around 93 for Chris Martin. So this is going to be, I think, in all likelihood, the Rangers closer. Maybe they decide to go with Robert Garcia, but look, they feel a little limited against with lefties in the bullpen right now. You've got Garcia, you've also got Tyler Alexander, and it's looking like Jacob Latz is probably going to be the starter, the 5th starter. That leaves you 2 bullpen options from the left-handed side. I feel like putting Robert Garcia in the closer role would not be wise when you only then have Alexander as an option in high leverage against other lefties. Feels like the smart move is Robert Garcia, 7th or 8th inning guy, high leverage guy, match him up against lefties if you can, and Chris Martin takes the closer role. Now, I'm with you on this, my guy. Like the elbow pop, man, the injuries with Martin. I do think that is what scares you. I definitely think that they have a couple of other dudes that could step up. Like, couldn't you see Carter Baumler potentially closing with the high 90s fastball and the filthy curveball? Couldn't you maybe see Cole Winn getting an opportunity? I just think the Rangers do have some right-handed power arms that could step in if Chris Martin goes down. But I just think you've got to keep Garcia available. You don't want Tyler Alexander. No disrespect intended here to Tyler Alexander. I would say this for just about anybody. You don't want one guy on an island in innings 6 through 8. You want to be able to mix and match. You want to be able to have the luxury of going to another left-handed arm that can get you out of a jam, right? You want to have flexibility. And so I do think you potentially put Garcia and keep Garcia out of the 9th inning for that reason. But Chris Martin, when healthy, we know that he is a fit for this closer role. I mean, we discussed the chase percentage for Chris Martin. I think I talked about this like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. The chase percentage for Chris Martin last year in 2025 was higher than Tarek Skubal, higher than Paul Skeens. I mean, this is a guy that gets a lot of swing and miss. It was crazy looking that up, by the way. Had no idea that Martin was in that territory. But in terms of chase percentage, guys chasing pitches outside the zone, Chris Martin, he is still highly elite in that category. And so for me, I think if he is healthy, he should be the guy. He gets a lot of swing and miss. He's a big, intimidating opposing force up there on the hill. And hopefully the arm stays healthy. I think the Rangers pushed him a little bit too hard last year. You saw him pitch 2 days, 3 days in a row at times. I don't think you can do that. So that's why I think, you look at a Carter Baumler. Shoot, you look at a Gavin Collier. You look at a Cole Winn. Those guys may be called on to piecemeal together the 9th inning when Chris Martin needs a breather. And maybe you get Robert Garcia in the mix. Maybe he begins the 9th inning and he faces the lefty that's leading off. And then you bring in Baumler or you bring in Cole Winn to do the rest. It could get very interesting in terms of the opportunities that some of these young guys are going to get at the back of the pen. Robbie Ahlstrom will help the big league team this year. Good. I did not hear that quote from Skip. Now, they sent him to minor league camp, didn't they? I know that means he can still participate in some of the spring training games, but it sounds like they decided to move him down to minor league camp. I thought I read that this morning in the long list of transactions that the Rangers posted. So I think at some point this year, you're right. I do feel like in all likelihood, they probably start him at AAA. I think Robbie has kind of demonstrated already that he can handle AAA bats, We also talked about this conundrum. Like, you've got a guy who is solid in AAA and has done a good job and just needs the opportunity, just needs a little runway at the major league level to see if they can hack it. And I do think Robbie is at that spot. I was encouraged. The one thing about Robbie that I wasn't, the biggest fan of was the low velo. And I don't say that disrespectfully, but he was at 93, I want to say, pretty consistently last year. I like seeing him top out in the mid 90s. Look, I know velocity is not everything, but in the major leagues, it can't hurt. And I think it can only help. And to see Alstrom hit that 95 spot on the gun, I'm like, okay, this guy is getting better and better. Hobie Milner was throwing upper 80s last year. So look, it can be done. It can be done. But I like seeing a little bit of extra punch on that fastball from Robbie Alstrom. And look, maybe somebody gets hurt this year. You need a little depth. When rosters expand, definitely. But hopefully he'll get an opportunity. I do think he's a guy that has, or is, I should say, coming to a spot where he's shown just about all he can show at AAA. Keep going. Yeah, he got sent down. I think that's just to get him more innings. Big league camp is running out of innings right now. Fair point. Fair point. Yeah, we talked about the bullpen and what the bullpen could be at this point. We'll go through, I'll go through the 40-man right now, and we'll just run through who the bullpen options are going to be as our show draws to a close here. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. 40-man roster. So let's just discuss like the staples, the mainstays, and we could probably work better from the 9th inning backwards. So you're obviously going to have Chris Martin as one of your bullpen guys. I think Cole Winn, definitely going to be a bullpen guy. Robert Garcia. You've also got Jacob Junis. He's going to be in the mix. You also are going to have Tyler Alexander. There's your 5th guy right there. I think Alexis Diaz is probably going to be up. I don't know if maybe a worse spring than what's going right now is going to make a difference or not, but that would be your number 6 guy. Baumler would be 7. And I don't know if I missed anybody or not, but I feel like that is probably going to be the makeup at this point in the game. Did I miss anybody? I don't know. I think you go Cole Winn, Chris Martin, Junis, Garcia, Diaz. Then from there you go Baumler, Alexander. Are there 8 guys? Are there 8 spots or 7 spots? I know there's not 9. Long day. Y'all help me out if you know. But I'm pretty sure that's where it's at right now. Bullpen, by the way, for what it's worth, on MLB.com, the depth chart, Garcia, Alexander, Diaz, Junis, Martin. Latz is in the bullpen right now. Winn, Curvelo, and Baumler. That's who MLB.com has bullpen-wise for the depth chart. All right. 8. So one more spot available beyond that. Going to be interesting. Latz is going to be a starter. Rocker's not going to go to the pen. So they are going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're going to be fine. I don't know if Curvelo is going to end up making it or not, but I do see Baumler, Winn, Martin, Junis, Diaz, Alexander, Garcia as being the mainstays for sure. All right. Anything else, TikTok? I'll keep checking on you guys. Are we screwed this season? The offense is going to be interesting. I do think the pitching is going to continue to at least operate at an above average to elite level. I don't know if the pitching is going to be quite as good as it was last year. That would just be hard to do in general. But the offense does make me pause a little bit. You added Nimmo. You have some guys that are primed for bounce back seasons. I would have liked for the club to have been a little bit more proactive in the offensive market. And I think most Rangers fans would probably agree with me there. I know some Rangers fans don't like me being negative at all about the team. And this just isn't the channel for you if that's the case. Like, we're going to be positive when it calls for it. And I'm going to call it on the carpet when it needs to be called. But for me, the offense still gives me a little bit of pause. I want to see what some of these guys look like in the groove of a major league season. I think Jock Peterson is obviously going to be a guy a lot of people have their eyes on. What's he going to look like? Josh Young, we talked about him already, the Jungle Cat. Josh Smith getting your opportunity here, everyday guy, or at least mostly everyday guy. What's he going to do? The Rangers just have a number of bounce back candidates. We talked about Jake Berger. He's another one. So there's a lot of hoping going on, and I've always said hope is not my favorite strategy when it comes to offense. I'd like more sure shots, please, but right now that is what the Rangers are going to be employing as one of their strategies. Hope. They're going to hope a lot of these guys that did not perform well last year figure it out. Evan Carter, they're going to hope he stays healthy and maybe becomes an everyday player. Same thing with, Josh Young. They're going to hope he stays healthy and is an everyday guy you can count on. The list goes on. Am I right? I just try to balance it. And, Holly, I appreciate this. I really do try to just be honest. I know that a lot of people like to call out, the clickbaity stuff and everything like that. I mean, look, sometimes I'm saying something tongue in cheek, but most of the time, I'm just giving you what comes off the top of my head, and I'm always going to err more towards the side of positive. But there comes a point you got to call a spade a spade. I don't know. I cannot stand, just being honest with Alexis Diaz. A lot of people were gassing up that move. It was awesome. And I didn't get it. I made a whole video about it. It's probably one of the 5 most recent on my TikTok page, on my YouTube Shorts page. Why are we gassing up mediocrity? I hate when people do that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves as a fan. We are, gassing up a dude that had a 6 ERA last year. I don't know what Diaz was last year. I just made that up on the fly. What was he last year? 8.15. Even worse. Why are we gassing up a dude that had an 8.15 ERA in 2025, right? But some people don't like that. They don't like the negativity. Okay, like I said, I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we could all just be real here. 8.15 ERA is not good. Doesn't take a baseball savant to figure that one out. Come on now, Alexis Diaz, 8.15 ERA, 153 WHIP in 18 games pitched. Yes, the career numbers are decent, but this is a what have you done for me lately league. And that's just one example here. This is a perfect example. Holly, I'm glad you brought this up. So, by the way, for all of y'all on TikTok that can't see the comments, I made a joke about Corey Seager 5 or 6 games in. He had 0 hits. And I'm like, is it time to start worrying? And I'm totally just being tongue-in-cheek, funny, not that serious, right? But you have the brigade of Seager defenders. Come on, bro. It's spring training. It's spring training. What are we doing? Come on, guys. We can't even joke. Corey Seager, notorious for being a little bit of a slow starter in his time here in Arlington. I'm not worried about Corey Seager. Am I going to joke about it occasionally? Absolutely. You got to laugh sometimes. But Corey Seager's going to be fine, man. He smoked a line drive single to center field yesterday. Corey Seager, you guys know who've been following me for a long time. One of my favorite players. I mean, seriously, this guy, he's a baseball legend. There's 4 people in the history of the sport that have won an MVP in the World Series 2 times. There's 4 people. I mean, this guy is baseball royalty. I'm not worried about Corey Seager. But we like to have a little fun every once in a while here on the show. Do I think this team could win 88 games this year? Absolutely. I think we've actually talked about this. It feels like almost every show. But look, it's okay to do another check-in here. I've been pretty consistent. Holly, I think you said 86 to 88 too. That's where I'm at. I think 88 is the ceiling. I think 85 is probably the floor. I think they're going to be somewhere in that 85 to 88 range. That would be my prediction at this point. Last year, they were 81 and 81, and it felt like they left a lot of games on the table. felt like they probably could have won 88 games last year had they not soiled the bed late. They had a number of blown saves, and they had a number of close 1-run, 3-2, 2-1, 2-0 losses. And the Rangers were shut out a number of times last year. And so you feel like this team probably is not 90 wins, but maybe close. And who knows what they do at the trade deadline. If you bring in somebody, you bring in a bat that improves the offense even more, it could absolutely change. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to say 86. I'm going to say 86 wins. The sad thing is, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I feel like the Rangers have to win the division to make it. You've got such a competitive AL East. You've got the Orioles that are going to be better. You got the Blue Jays that went to the World Series last year and were like an inch away from winning it all. You've got the Rays that are always like kind of sneaky good. Junior Caminero killing it right now in the WBC. Like everybody in the AL East, it feels like is good. Like there's going to be so much competition for the wild card spots. It really does feel like it's going to have to be the AL West. I don't know if 86 wins the AL West. I think it's possible, but I see Seattle being pretty competitive again this year too. I think Houston is going to be in the same boat as us. I think they will be a winning team. I don't know if they're going to get to 90 wins either, but this is going to be a competitive AL West, and I do feel like it might come down to the division, whether or not the Rangers make the playoffs. Time will tell on that one. But the AL East, super competitive. You got the Guardians and you got the Royals that look pretty good in the AL Central. There are a number of competitive teams. Now, I say this almost every time this comes up, but when I look at the AL, there's nobody that really worries me big time. There's a lot of good teams. There's some elite teams. There's some above average teams. Nobody really worries me in the AL. I'm a little worried about the Dodgers in the NL. Just going to be real with you. But when I look at all the AL teams, there's nobody I point to on the calendar and say, oh no, we cannot win in that series. I don't do that really with any AL team that we face this year. When you go up and you have DeGrom, Evo, Gore, 1, 2, 3, you feel pretty good about facing anybody. There's not a lot of other teams that can sport that. So, yes, could one of those good teams catch us at a bad time in the rotation? Sure. But I don't look at the Blue Jays or the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Guardians or the Royals or the Mariners or the Astros. I don't look at any of those teams as unbeatable. I'm looking forward to the season. I think hope springs eternal at this time of year, and it should. The Rangers, they have some candidates for bounce backs. They added a few new pieces. Hopefully they get next steps from guys like Wyatt Langford and Jack Leiter. There's a lot to be positive about. And we're going to try and accentuate the positives as much as possible, but be real with you when the opposite is true as well. Hey, look, we're going to sign off for today. It has been a good show, hour and 3 minutes. We'll be back on Thursday, or if anything crazy happens, big breaking news, we'll definitely consider chiming back in, hopping on the live. But Sundays and Thursdays, if you haven't hit that follow button yet, let's do it. Come on now. You see the vibe. You catch what we're doing each show. Just talking ball, talking Rangers baseball, taking your comments, taking your questions. Would love if you followed so you can stay up to date with all of the latest content that we put out. Talked about the Discord a few times on the show. That's like the one thing that I monetize. So if you want to take your support of the channel of Right on Rangers, of me and what I'm doing here to the next level, consider joining the Discord. It's $2.99 a month. You have to become a member on YouTube, or you become a subscriber on TikTok right after the show. If you become a member or if you become a subscriber, I'll get you into the Discord. It's an awesome community of people. We've got a couple of others like me that cover the Rangers for a living. It's great. Like, I really have appreciated that group since we got it started almost a year ago. It's crazy to think, but it's almost been a year since we started that Discord. So, hey, look, consider it. But if it's not for you, no hard feelings. keep supporting the show in the ways that you can. It is much appreciated. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll be back again on Thursday. I'll be posting a ton in between on X. We're going to go watch that Team Mexico game, see if our boys, Alejandro Osuna, Robert Garcia, get a little action. Follow me over on X if you want more updates throughout the week, not just Sunday and Thursday. Have a blessed week ahead. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and go Rangers.